The steel and engineering sector has over time experienced economic headwinds, but say they go into this year's wage negotiations on a hard footing, with the economy at its worst in its performance, noting the importance of getting the negotiations right.
Our intention is to find common ground between different employer bodies and the trade unions, because by finding common ground we can find an agreement and we can avoid a breakdown in negotiations, which would be disastrous for the country and for our sector. Please bear in mind, the manufacturing sector is a key supplier and customers to all the major parts of the economy around us, whether it's mining, automotive, construction. We have a responsibility to ensure that we don't grind to a halt, because when our sector grinds to a halt, the economy feels the effect of that.
But role players in this space want a frank approach to the collective bargaining process, with honesty from all parties on their financial position for an amicable solution.
At the moment, we've got such a complicated collective bargaining process where there's so many demands going into the wage negotiations, there's so much positioning, and the model that we're using is the positional model. So we spend 90% of the time haggle around issues that will not make it into the final agreement, and that's a problem, and both employers and unions are making the same mistakes. And so that's the model that needs to change. And I also see it now in the Eskom wage negotiations happening today and tomorrow as we speak.
The 2021 leg of wage talks saw a 3-week shutdown and the industry losing around 700 million rand per day. Employers also say they cannot afford to have that, not in this current economic climate.
Well, what we can't do as South African citizens sit back and do nothing. For me, I think it's so critical that we all get involved. And so for me, what's so important is that we as SA Inc., we adopt an SA Inc. approach, whether it be business, labour, communities. We have to think SA Inc. We can't be thinking about a capitalist approach or an extreme socialist approach. It's about saying, how do we collectively change our trajectory? If we do nothing, we're in trouble.
There are targets for the 2 days, as the social partners in the labour space want to also get the best out of the Labour Relations Act and processes at the National Economic Development and Labour Council.
Look at those objectives of fostering confidence. It then means we need then to look at the key fundamental issues that requires an agent intervention. One, it will be a policy consistency. 2, regulatory framework. 3, addressing crime, corruption, and undoing state capture. 4, infrastructure investments. 5, state-owned entity restructuring and optimization or an exit strategy, so that we cannot then have 745 state-owned entities, and then we think that we're doing the right thing. 6, we need then to look at energy industrialization strategy, because in the current form, again, the country continue then to plunge and lose revenue and even potential things that we want them to do.
Delegates describing a strike action by workers as a failure to collective bargaining, with a strong call for the country's Labour Relations Act and the culture to be checked in efforts to strengthen labour relations. The role players want a fostered confidence in the process, policy consistency in this regard, the creation and protection of jobs, and the industrialization of the country's economy. Katlego Logodi, SABC News in Kempton Park.